Okay guys, so I'm going to make a little video on soybean growth, and specifically what we're going to do is we're going to wash the roots and look at the nodules on a couple of my plants. But in the last couple of weeks, the soybean sign has disappeared from my neighbor's field, and looking out there, I don't know if you can pick it up, but there is a pretty major yellow cast to the field in the dicamba beans that looks like sudden death syndrome. Pretty much is sudden death syndrome. So now I'm going to flip over to the other side, and this is my drifted dicamba field. Not a lot of death, but you can see that they are laying over. So we're going to go dig one of those plants, and we're going to compare it to a plant from the undrifted field. And I had to dig because we had, wait for it, another 80 hundredths of rain last night. And so when you have a rain and the soil saturated like that and you pluck a soybean from the ground, it just sheds all the nodules and leaves them in the ground. So I'm gonna go dig a plant. Okay guys, welcome back. This is a multiple take video. I do have my glasses this time. I do have my sharp knife. And is the camera on slow-mo, dear? No, good. So we can do this at normal speed. Guys, here's what we've got going on. I've got two soybean plants here, same variety. The destination for these soybeans was the organic feed market. This is a drifted bean here. You know, I made the video a week or two ago. These beans are trying to lay over at about 45 degrees, but the stems haven't broke, and they are loaded with beans. Same variety in a field that was not drifted, very erect habitat. This bean was planted, like I said, 3 weeks later. That's not what the story is about today. The story is about, boy, I can see a lot better with those glasses, is about these little things right here, the soybean nodules. And the soybean nodule is how the soybean pulls nitrogen from the air and fixes it in the plant in the form of protein. And the reason that is of concern, there's two main reasons. Number one, the quality of the beans. You want your beans to have as high a protein as possible when they're going into the feed market. That's a highly desirable trait. The other reason is we, as part of the crop rotation, we always follow a grass after soybeans. Next year's crop will be a grass, whether it be wheat or forage sorghum or corn. And so it is imperative that the soybean plant fix nitrogen, and that that nitrogen from the atmosphere, a fair amount of it's used in filling the beans and assuring that they have good protein, and the balance of it is left in the soil. When I was at K-State, you know, we were taught the ground rule, or the rule of thumb, that for every bushel of yield, your soybeans should leave a pound of nitrogen in the soil. And so what that means is that if you have 60 bushel beans, the next year's crop will have 60 pounds of residual nitrogen. So come up here close, honey. This is on the non-drifted plant, and we're going to attempt to cut some nodules. I stripped a root there. And we have a very light pinkish color on that one. He's not terribly active. He's not blood red like I would like to see. We have a better reddish tint on that one, so he is active, but he's not terribly active. And then that one that tried to fall out of my hand, he has a light pinkish color too. And so they're about the same hue as my hand there on the color pattern. Let's see if I can find a nodule right on the base of the root. So these three right here, we will split them right on the root. And they have about the same thing going on. That one is, I would say, a shade redder than my hand. So anyway, the undrifted plant, when I was pulling these plants out of the soil, I had a heck of a time. You really want to do this when your ground's dry. so that you keep all the nodules on the plant. When I dug them with the sharpshooter today, I compacted the soil. And so when I was washing them off at the hose over there, I was leaving a whole bunch of nodules on the ground. But that there is the nodule that I want to see. He has a very nice pink color, and he is a shade or two darker than my hand. So let's look at the drifted plant. First thing I noticed with the drifted plant was that I was able to keep more nodules on the plant in my washing process over there. Where are some big nodules? There's a single big one right there. I don't want to introduce dirt inside of that nodule when I cut him open. I want you to be able to see in there. That one has a pink color. He's maybe a shade lighter than my hand there, but at least he has a little bit of color in him. So as these nodules continue to develop, their color will get darker. It's kind of a supply and demand sort of thing. The nodules have been stockpiling nitrogen from the air, and as they fill the bean, they will start to demand it. But there is what I don't want to see, and that came off the dicamba plant. And that is what I am seeing in my field. Can you get the interior of that nodule, dear?
It's green.
It's bright green. So that nodule is not working. And so in cutting open these nodules, you know, what I'm finding in the field is when I cut open the nodules on the dicamba plants, I find green nodules, and I find nodules that are not active at all. And that troubles me. I'm having a hard time splitting this nodule, but I can already see what we're going to find there.
It's green.
It's green. So I've been doing this already several times on several plants over the last couple weeks, guys. And I have been finding that, and I mentioned that to a couple of my local agronomist friends, and they don't have a lot to say about it. But then a lot of people are not familiar with how the soybean plant actually works and the importance of it. But in the crop rotation, it is imperative that I not mine the soil for nitrogen. On my fertile bottom ground, next year's crop for this field is corn. And so I as an organic farmer desperately need that plant to fix nitrogen, as well as to put nitrogen in the protein of the current crop of soybeans. And so that is something I will have to think about in next year's management scenario. An additional step, perhaps the drifted fields will need additional nitrogen from some source other than my typical source is crop rotation and soybeans. So another thing to think about, guys. Thanks a lot.